Oh, Phoenix Empire's financial dominance has dropped a bit. Because they're paying Kryenvar 45 ducats for knowledge sharing. And they're hiring Ovdal Khanzad's armies. Ooh. Now where are they? They're over here. That's 12 Ovdal Khanzad artillery. Not a great fire general. But having Ovdal Khanzad's artillery in these fights could make a really big difference, because those guys hit hard. And the nice thing about artillery is, as long as you don't completely screw up, they're in the battle the whole time. So you want to get those guys into these fights early. Make sure their artillery is in the front line. Oh, it's not in the front line. Make sure their artillery is in the fight. So that they're just constantly just doing damage, and then damage, and then damage, and then damage, and then damage. Also, how much were you paying for that condottieri? 30 ducats a month. For 30k. It's pretty good value. For Ovdal Khanzad. That's a Two Sicilies style deal right there. I like it. Although this is very much in Ovdal Khanzad's interest. Although they themselves are not immediately vulnerable, the nearest entrance would be here. It is still very much in their interest to keep Soldier Sat humbled if they can. What is the victory here like? 25%. Most of that from the war goal, however. And this war, not quite 1 million have been lost. The Lorentish war... Oh, jeez. 3 million. We've hit the 3 million mark. Meanwhile, Red Glades have been retaken, and we are once again on the offensive, with Vern taking the lead this time around, engaging in the marshes. 70,000 against 60,000, though with both sides with a lot of troops there in reserve, ready to march in. Lorent has a disaster ticking. Install Thrall disaster. Reduction in foreign spy detection and spy network construction. Okay. Can be stopped if the vampire loyalty is 30 or greater. Their loyalty is currently 30, so it needs to be greater than 30. Meanwhile, 115,000 against 98,000. I would say that both sides have a lot of extra troops. I was thinking, oh, if that's just it, then maybe not, but then I saw there was another 90k there in the north. 4,000 damage a tick, that's gonna hurt. Lorent Vern gonna need to bring in some reinforcements soon. Their lines are collapsing, but they brought in that reinforcement wave just in time, although their back line has been damaged. So right now, Arborand's line is going to do more. Because these single pips, that's artillery. And as long as you don't have the single pips in the back line, or if it's broken up like this, where you've got an intermixture of nothing, or like cavalry here in the back line, they're not contributing anything. They're just taking damage. Morale damage. So unfortunately this has become a very bad fight for Lorent and Vern because their back line is so bad, whereas Arborand has kept this very solid line of artillery this entire battle, and that artillery is constantly wearing away at their opponent. And there we go. Lorent Vern about to be destroyed because Lorent did not bring in their final stack, which had another 30k artillery. They kind of needed that to join the fight, to be honest. Meanwhile, in the New World, Base God has repulsed. Oh no, I think they pieced out. Yeah, I think Base God pieced out. Boiscaro. Did they take some of Wyvern's Bay? Did they hold out long enough to make Vern think that they needed to withdraw their troops to reinforce the Old World? Because that's really interesting if they did. Wyvern's Bay. Did you lose land? You did. You lost one province. I didn't realise that this was Boiscavo, though. This is where they've been shipping their troops from, I imagine. Although they're having a lot of separatists at the moment. So if we take a look at Boyascava at the moment, we can see that, yeah, these guys are about to declare independence. And there are quite a few of them. Damn it, cult! Heretics. Damn it, cult! That's funny. Meanwhile, in the Great War of the East, we have got the Phoenix Empire starting to siege. Once again, Soldier Sat sent packing, so Phoenix Empire seems to be doing something right at the moment. And then they also have the Dwarven Artillery in on the siege currently, providing that extra artillery firepower. I mean, that's definitely oversubscribed in terms of artillery, but they are getting a +7 right now from the 21 artillery pieces. So this siege is going to fall pretty quickly. And then at that point, what I want to see is then push all the way to here and then build a fort there and then just sit on it, because that is the war goal. Then once you've claimed and occupied this in a solid way, then you can start thinking about counterattacking. Until that's done, though, with the numbers that these guys are bringing into this fight, you don't want to be too hasty. Is Ebethil a country? Yes. Sorry, a player. Yes, it is. Ebethil is both a country and a player. So, Lorent, are you still being fed money by a small country? Yes. Is Vern? Yes. No, Vern's being paid by Ebethil. Interesting. Vern has crashed. So we're going to pause for a moment while that's happening. And in fact, while that is going on, we're going to have a 2-minute break here. So I'm going to put up the ads for 2 minutes. I'm going to take a quick break myself, and we shall resume after that. So 2 minutes, everyone. Go grab a drink, stretch your legs, do what you got to do, and we'll be back soon. Okay, and we are back again. Vern has just hot joined back in, and there's the unpause. So, there's the unpause. Okay. Time is passing. It was very slow, but time is passing. Now, is there anything else going on? So Marhold is now moving in after Hammerholm. So Marhold's making some pretty aggressive moves to try and grab a little bit more territory. Denica, did you manage to take some more of Elnor? No. Adenica keeps on fighting these wars against Elnor, then taking basically nothing. And are you fighting anyone at the moment? No, you're not. You're completely at peace. Rebuilding your forces, which I think is a very good move. 117,000. Marhold's got 75. Kryenvar, 334,000, but they still have another 200,000 that they could be gaining. Meanwhile, Phoenix Empire backing off from the fort. Why? Phoenix Empire sending a couple of troops through here, maybe to try and attack the back end. Although Soldier Sat knows that there are troops around here. I'm a little surprised they backed off from sieging that. I thought that was actually a good move. Although then they would be taking the -2 battle. But they kind of need to do something. Oh, unless that province right behind it is also mountains. It is highlands. Okay, not quite as good. But if they can provoke an attack from Soldier Sat into that, then that would be good for them. Meanwhile, war score is still ticking. There's only 4% left. Otherwise, this is completely balanced. That would be a war score of 0 if it was like a superiority war. Meanwhile, Lorent and Vern's armies are starting to mass up again. Are we seeing Vern transporting these large armies back home? I think we probably are. Yes, we are. 47,000 picked up on those ships. They're going to be heading home. Taking a bit of attrition on the way. I think I might actually be sailing them into Lorent rather than all the way around. Although once you're within supply ship range, then I don't think you take damage anymore. So sailing along these is going to be 2 more ticks of attrition. I think I'd sail to here, then manually move it. But that's me being nitpicky and doing naval stuff. Okay, so we are about to have Lorent punching into Bjornrik's armies here. 115,000 troops against 77. Immediately inflicting 2,000 casualties a tick on Bjornrik's forces. Bjornrik does not have as good a general. He is a... oh no, never mind, he's a 666. Lorent, have you improved your commanders? You have. You've got a 634 now. So on the fire phase, at least, you're going to be doing much the same, except for the fact that Lorent just has better troops. Meanwhile, we've got additional forces up there from Arboran. Lorent doing some magic, clearly. Which I then need to clear. There we go. 140,000 against 106,000. With lots of reinforcements. Bjornrik trying to do their rearguard attack, but this time Vern being ready for it and then countering it hard. They've got Drake's Guard coming in to reinforce. Lorent with plenty of soldiers here on the flank. This was actually a really nice counter by Vern and Lorent. So they've got plenty of soldiers fighting on the front line, which is of course the main fight, and then they have enough troops here to just shatter this. Unfortunately, Royal Sard's reinforcements are about to get pounced upon by the 70k from Arboran, but then we have 100,000 here that could pounce on these guys, especially as it's in the woods. Arboran's currently fighting on a -1. These guys want to be moving a little bit quicker. Royal Sard might be able to hold until they arrive, and they did. It's now a -2. Okay, that has just become a very, very bad battle for Arboran. However, is this going to be at the cost of the main fight here with Lorent? Lorent having a couple more troops nearby, ready to reinforce. This is going to be an incredibly close battle. And it actually looks like their opponents... oh, man, that was close. So the big fight was lost by the Lorentish side, but Vern managed to win 2 of their own pretty significant engagements in the back lines there. And we are now at a 4 million casualty rate. 4 million. That's a lot. Meanwhile, Kryenvar Blue Flames has finally made the move against Marhold. So we've got Marhold, Adenica, Ancardia, Eberthil, Chios versus Kryenvar on their own. So the Marhold side has significantly more troops. And this is the Kryenvari conquest of Marhold. So they're finally going for the capital. And it looks like they will be able to siege it down. Marhold coming in to attack the side here, which is really where they should have built forts. Like, I'm a little disappointed they didn't build their forts here. Kryenvar's forces otherwise staying fairly far behind. Is Eberthil actually going to help this time? Eberthil's navies are active down here in the sea, but not really doing much more beyond that. Meanwhile, this seems to have become a bit of a stalemate. Level 4 fort in the mountains there, that's nice. Meanwhile, these 2 colonies are completed. One thing which would have been absolutely hilarious, and is totally the type of thing I would have done, is I would have been watching the progress of those 2 colonies like a hawk, and then jumped on them just before they finished and then seized them. Which would mean when they do finish, they would then be mine. Pretty much what I did to, what were they called? Elnar. When they abandoned this island and then refused to give it to me, they just started colonizing it again. So I just declared war and took them. That was the beginning of my troubles with Elnar. For some reason. But they refused to give me the sodding island, which is the island that Lorent gave them when they were looking for sanctuary. It was my island! The 30 Years' War, but it happens twice in a century, U4 and multiplayer not in a nutshell. True. True. So Skewer Drake is still doing a real number on Verkogulin, who just doesn't look like they want to fight. I don't understand why, because they have more than enough troops to do this. I guess they're just scared of some goblins. Meanwhile... Oh, we've got our first significant battle over here. So we've got Anbennar versus Kreinvar. We are going to be able to see the quality of these armies, although this seems to be mostly Marhold. During the shock phase, they are doing a lot of damage. During the fire phase, they are taking quite a lot of damage. So this is going to be massive swings back and forth, depending on what phase it is. Unfortunately, the first phase is fire, so they're always going to lose a couple of troops in that first engagement. So this is still mostly Marhold. Anbennar is coming in with a couple more troops now. And I think it is going to be Anbennar that really does the damage during the shock phases. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is just the lack of troops on Marhold and Andennar's side. They need their other allies like Everthil to step in. This is 200,000 Wood Elves against 150,000 Chivalric Fellows. Although they are currently losing 3,500 during the fire phases, and there we go, they are withdrawing manually. Going not to a fort, still kind of dangerous. But that is a first victory for Kreinvar. So, out of interest, Marhold, what are your stats like? So you've only got a 35% cavalry modifier, 6.6 morale versus 6.9. Your discipline is 105, yours is 103. Kreinvar have got 15% infantry and 10% artillery. Their infantry are going to be mostly fire. It's actually pretty well balanced. Reform longbows. Versus the volley infantry, which is mostly fire damage. And then, of course, outriders, which are shock. And they would need 18 to get to the next level. So they probably want to tech up military as soon as they can to unlock leather cannon and reformed outriders. And I think that will be a big swing in their favour. Meanwhile, Anbennar, the true flower of chivalry with 98% modifier for their shock cavalry. And their ambushers being a 4-2 attack. These, of course, being the Orcish cavalry. And at level 18, they'll have a 6. A 6-4. Impressive. Their artillery is bad, though, -10, because the military and their infantry has nothing special. So Andennar's a one-trick pony when it comes to horses. And ponies, in fact. Meanwhile, this fight has well and truly become a stalemate. Arboran tapped. Bjarnrik down to 80,000. However, their army professionalism has dropped by another 10% since we checked last time. Avdel Khanzad congratulates the Empire on finally having a competent Emperor. Did Vern lose it? Lorent the Emperor! All hail Lorent! Well, that's interesting. Magisterium, Anbennar, Small Country and Conwell all voting for Lorent and not Vern. Huh. Now I know that Lorent does have some missions about becoming Emperor, but they tend to be a bit lower down. Like here. Which they have not reached yet. Interesting. And this also means that Lorent can now have some absolutely whopping armies, and Vern will have lost some. So we have another battle here, 125,000 against 100,000. Arboran does have some troops here on the flank, but it doesn't look like they're going to be preparing any flanking operations. Meanwhile, Vern's reinforcements from the old world will have arrived. So that's another 170,000 troops joining these battles, and I really don't think that there's going to be very much that these guys can do about it. Lorent's military prowess is also starting to show through. 3,000 a tick against 500. 4,000 a tick against 300. The front line has not buckled. I keep thinking that this grey is empty land, but it's not. It's Arboran's forces. They do have another 150,000 troops stacked up back there, but then so do these guys. And never fear, roll sods here. 6.6 morale against 6.9. 123 discipline for Lorent now. 2.4 tactics against 2.2. And this is the effect of discipline. starting to do some serious damage. Because remember, discipline increases the damage you do and reduces the damage you take. It does both. Are there any Lich Kings? Not that I know of. I have a feeling that the players would be bragging about it if they did. So we've got another 80,000 coming in. And actually what I would like to see here is actually Vern intercepting that 80k. And they are doing it. So we've got 240,000 against 128,000. We do have another 110,000 coming in to reinforce. Vern, no, don't back off. Where are you going? Okay, you're going the wrong way. You are going to hold. This is a fight that Vern... Ooh, -2. Okay, I had not realised that was going to be a -2. However, they're just doing so much damage here. 2-to-1 casualty, 3-to-1 casualty. Crazy amounts, even though they're on a -1. Like, we're really starting to see the fruits of discipline here. Meanwhile, Vern is taking the fight to Arboran's reinforcements, who are then sent packing. Vern has another 70,000 men, and another 90,000 that they could send into this. And just 25,000 for Arboran. And I think that now that Vern has finished their affairs in the New World, that this war is going to turn pretty quickly. Lorent's going to be gaining even more manpower, 5,400 a month from being Emperor. Maximum of 579. However, the big impact is going to be the increase to their army force limit. So Lorent can now start to employ even more troops. Vern is probably fairly significantly over the limit. They can have 298. They're currently at 323. And Vern is also going to start losing some money. Did you just take out all of your loans? You have 14,000 ducats and no loans. Everthil is bankrolling you something pretty freaking fierce. And that was another victory. And... Whoops, no, I misclicked. I was like, and then the battle ends. The war ends. And we are almost at 4.7. We're not quite at 5 million losses yet, but we're getting there. Anyway, what was that province called? It was the South Flood March. And it was the most recent... Unfortunately, you can't see how many troops were lost. Just the war score swings. Although at the moment, Lorent's still losing it because they don't have Votsend, which is in the New World. Otherwise, it would be +5 because of the weight of the battles. Although they're about to take 2 forts there, so that should swing things after that point. Meanwhile, Kreinvar fighting against a Deneker and Marhold. Denneker's army there being sent packing. They have another 100,000 men that they could send in. They are horribly outnumbering a Denneker here. One of Kreinvar's armies being sent packing. Meanwhile, these two armies doing roughly... Oh, 6,000 a tick! Oh, shock phase. Impressive. And then eventually a Denneker and Marhold sent packing. Unfortunately, I think that this is pretty much a foregone conclusion, just because Cyrenica just has so many more troops. Meanwhile, we have a colossal battle. 300,000 Phoenix Empire versus 155,000 of the Soldier Sat. We've got another 50k Phoenix and another 60k Soldier Sat, but it does look like the Phoenix Empire has finally roused themselves from their slumber and are showing what a mammoth state they truly are. And even though the morale advantage is still 1.4 in Soldier Sat's advantage, the fact that they're just bringing 100,000 more men to the battle is starting to pay dividends, but both sides still losing absolutely massive numbers of troops. Particularly, it has to be said, the Phoenix Empire, who are down to 160,000 men in the pool. 6,000 a tick, jeez. And that was a Soldier Sat victory, despite the odds. Soldier Sat has indeed started the invasion of the East, with Heinrich Pass starting to lose. That's a very Dutch name. These are Dutch names. Or at least these ones are. That's interesting. Wayne Geesa. Somzelsen. Okay, maybe not that one. Enden. The end. Oh, wow! Ovdal Khanzad taking the fight to the command. This is what I wanted to see them do. This is exactly what I wanted to see Ovdal Khanzad do. So Ovdal Khanzad have really started to grow, and they are very much one of the nations that can start to really snowball once they start to gain a bit more infrastructure under them, because their military power is just so astonishing, especially on the defensive. Zemov is really enjoying Detroit Become Human. Good. I've heard some stuff about the game, but I don't know much about it. Wonder when the Obsidian Legion's going to spawn. Yeah, and where? So who's not currently actually involved in player wars? Boyascavo, though they were. Ovdal Khanzad, though they are, through Condottieri. Small country. Jordland, which was funding Boyascavo, but I'm guessing is now neutral. Then Oslam Azdir, also neutral. And growing. I'm a little bit surprised that she's not gone after Krakdomvor yet. Haraz Ordum has a truce with Kugdir, but Oslam Azdir would be in a pretty good position to just go after them. Although that's quite a lot of aggressive expansion, but that's mostly with your immediate neighbours, which, who cares, just kill them. And the other thing that we should probably be looking at here is the fact that the truce that the Gnomish hierarchy has with Bjarnrik is over. But because Bjarnrik is embroiled in this huge war, I reckon that small country is going to be able to jump in again. I mean, it's a whopping 11 years away, so it's going to be a while. But that could certainly happen. Meanwhile, these two provinces have now been taken. Are they making any efforts at all to take Votsend, which was the entire reason for this fight? Short answer, no. Meanwhile, Boyascavo has dealt with their rebels and is starting to attack some of their neighbours. These might be people that actually managed to split out and get independence. Meanwhile, I think we're about to have another fight here. Yes, we are. Vern crossing the river into Elnath. Losing the battle initially, although there are quite a significant number of troops here to reinforce should they require them. 80,000 against 90,000. Of course, there are a large number of Arboran reinforcements nearby as well. Vern probably wanting to start some of their own reinforcements marching in soon. Lorent opening another front here against the North Flood Marches, where is another fort. And these three are all fortified. And they've fortified this entire line. So Arboran's ready for this kind of conflict. Like, they can defend in quite some depth. Another pause, someone must have crashed. Can I look at the Soldier Sat morale mod? So I think the main thing with the Soldier Sat is they get some national spirits from when they federated. There, Soldiers of the Lake. So depending on what their constitution is, I think they gain bonuses here. So they took a lot of hits to trade efficiency, gained some morale of armies, national manpower limit, force limit, lost some naval, gained some discipline, gained leaders without upkeep, a lot of them. Lost a bunch of goods produced. Their economy is nowhere near as strong as it could be because they took so many military bonuses, which is why the Phoenix Empire has just such a much bigger economy. Meanwhile, Phoenix Empire is moving into Soldier Sat. There are virtually no defenses on this side. Yeah, Phoenix Empire really wants to invest in more defenses, and in fact, if we go over to the military tab, take a look at army tradition, we can see that they are gaining only 0.26 army tradition from fully maintained forts. Although that being said, command of the military strategic maneuvers, the foundry, fully maintained, and the Great Ash Legion, they gain quite a lot of army tradition. It's not a huge problem that they don't have that bonus. Did anyone see why we're paused? I'm guessing someone crashed. Physica wants me to drink some tea. I think I can do that. Oh, that's getting quite cold. Let's top it up with some hot tea.